Ever since Big Mom's defeat, it's been often debated within the community as to who the strongest supernova is after Luffy, between Law, Kid or Zoro. Some may believe that Kid or Law are the second strongest because they defeated an emperor, whereas Zoro only defeated a Yonko commander. Others may believe it's Zoro because he has advanced conqueror's haki and a greater will than the other two. I'll be covering what if Zoro fought both Kid and Law to see which of these stances is actually the truth. Before we delve into it though, if you're new to the channel, you just haven't subbed yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button, and as always your support is much appreciated. Zoro during the rooftop battle was arguably the most impressive against the Yonko. He was portrayed to be a cut above the rest during this stretch until a particular moment, but before then he was definitely the brightest star. He opened the battle by blitzing base Kaido with an onigiri and later was casually deflected Kaido's wind sights, but this is where things get interesting for this topic. After taking consecutive attacks from Luffy's Kong Rifle, Kid's Punk Gibson and Law's Gamma Knife, Kaido understood that the supernova had found ways to get around his tough defense. Despite all these attacks, when Zoro prepared his Dragon Blaze, Big Mom warned Kaido about the attack and urged him to dodge it. Big Mom witnessed all these attacks from the supernova, but she only reacted this way to Zoro, portraying his attack as stronger than all the attacks prior. It should also be noted that Dragon Blaze isn't a flying slash attack like the Pound Phoenix, but the attack was still so powerful that the shockwave from Zoro's swing crossed the Skull Dome, cut the horn. An example of something similar to what Zoro did is Mihawk cutting the glacier in Marineford. It wasn't a flying slash attack, but the shockwave created from a regular swing. Zoro has at least 3 named attacks that are definitely stronger than the Dragon Blaze, those being Ashura, the Billionfold Trichiliocosm, and 3000 Worlds. 3000 Worlds used to be Zoro's strongest named attack until Ashura, but it continued to be his next strongest attack even after Dragon Blaze was introduced in Thriller Bark until the post-time skip. The Billionfold Trichiliocosm is another secret skill that's a higher version of the 3000 Worlds. Zoro's 1080 Pound Phoenix might also be a stronger attack than the Dragon Blaze, as it's Zoro's strongest flying slash attack, but that's debatable. On the roof, Kid and Law showed their strongest attacks outside of the Awakening, and it was eclipsed by Zoro's 4th or potentially 5th strongest attack. So Kid and Law without their Awakening, which I'll be calling their base, isn't even on the same level as Zoro on the rooftop, just off the difference of portrayal that the Dragon Blaze had over their attacks. Zoro even endured and took the power of a combined Yonko attack head on for a moment, and in a very injured state eclipsed all the supernova and even himself up until this point to a whole nother level. This is when Zoro used Ashura against Kaido, and in a short one-on-one altercation where Zoro was able to overpower Kaido's attack, then proceed to blitz and scar him. Zoro was able to do this while severely nerfed, as the conquest of the sea broke 20 to 30 of his bones. So actually, the Ashura we see in the bad state Zoro's in isn't a true representation of his full strength up until this point. What makes his attack a lot stronger compared to all those that came before it is that Zoro infused Conqueror's Haki into his attack. Now I know there's a difference in opinion to Zoro's usage of Conqueror's Haki in this moment, but I won't be explaining my opinion on it since it doesn't really change the outcome of this topic. Now, against Big Mom, Kid and Law agreed that they were getting nowhere against her fighting with only their base abilities, so they pulled out their Awakening. After getting hit by the Shock Will and the Punk Crash, Big Mom acknowledged both of them for being rivals like Luffy to take her seat as an emperor. She even sacrificed a year of her life to become a bigger giant, using more strength than she did on the rooftop as a sign of her acknowledgement. Since this was a 2v1 fight, Kid and Law took advantage of their numbers, being able to catch Big Mom with attacks while she's off guard and winded. This was shown when Law attacks Big Mom with her back turned because she thought the fight was over, which gave Kid the opening to land his bull attack while she was winded. Ordinarily, Big Mom would be able to dodge these attacks, as we see after her bones are healed, she's able to react to the same bull attack despite being weighed down by the tower on her back. It should also be noted that the damage we see inflicted onto Big Mom is a result of Kid and Law's joint effort. We know this as Law wanted the roles to be reversed and have Kid do the initial damage, weakening her so he can have the finishing attack, which is the method that they had been using throughout the entire fight. Law and Kid hit Big Mom with another back-to-back attack that breaks her arm and ribs. Law shocks Big Mom with a bigger shock will than before, which goes through her arm into her body and out of her head. Kid then does the finishing slam into a wall with a massive ball. As you can see, it's not until Kid's attack that Big Mom's arm is broken, even though Law used shock will through it. So as it stands to reason, Big Mom's bones are broken as a result of their joint attack and isn't a feat that they can accomplish individually. After using their strongest attacks, Law and Kid were able to knock Big Mom off the island. Law's puncture will makes the sword so long that the shockwave generated creates a massive crater. Kid follows his attack up with his damned punk, which Big Mom tries to deflect, and the power struggle results in a stalemate, until Kid fires another shot from his railgun to push her through the hole Law created and out of the island. As for their durability and endurance, they were getting downed and enduring many of Big Mom's non-Conqueror's coated attacks. These attacks included Big Mom's stolen flame and Eiichiro's sovereignty while she was in base, and a barrage of armored haki punches on Law in her giant form. Kid was also dealing with transfer damage from Hawkins and endured a base Mama raid at the same time. As for the best feat from either of them, it was Law enduring a suppressed hybrid Kaido's Thunder Bagua. He was able to get up from it relatively fine and join Kid, although he was down for a bit watching Luffy bloom his Conqueror's Haki. Over a week after the Onigashima raid, Law and Kid engaged in a battle against Blackbeard and Shanks. Since Law and Kid used their awakening attacks from the beginning of the fight, it suggests that they've improved with their Devil Fruit since the raid, as it was only kept as a last resort against Big Mom. Law definitely outperformed Kid in his Yonko matchup, but that's mainly due to Blackbeard's carelessness that he consistently shows at the beginning of his fights. Law was not only able to damage Blackbeard with his shock will, but he clashed with Blackbeard's quake with his Kroom. In contrast, due to Shanks foreseeing the destruction Kid was going to bring to his fleet, he was more serious from the beginning and was very thorough. In all honesty though, despite not seeing the end of the Law vs Blackbeard fight as of this recording, after Blackbeard used the Dark Vortex, Law probably ended up in the same position as Kid after he fought Shanks. Now for Zoro, he learned how to consciously infuse himself in Conqueror's Haki, which is a power that can only be used by a handful of the very strongest. The only way to make Conqueror's Haki grow stronger is for the user themselves to grow stronger, meaning that it requires passing a threshold of strength in order to use the advanced level of Conquerors. I've talked about how big of a power-up Advanced Conquerors is a good amount on the channel, but to keep it short, we see base Luffy's attacks after Conqueror's coating surpasses Ryo Gear 4's attacks from before, as those Ryo attacks were too shallow, whereas the Conqueror's punches weren't. Before Conqueror's coating, Luffy and base was tagged by base Kaido's Thunder Bagua, but after the power-up could dodge a far faster Thunder Bagua in Gear 2nd. Base Luffy before Conqueror's coating was knocked out by Kaido's Ragnarok, but after the power-up was able to endure a stronger version of the same attack. All this is to say is that infusing oneself in Conqueror's Haki makes you overall stronger. With this power up, Zoro went on to dominate King, beating him with 3 attacks. Due to Zoro's new power, he forced King to fight differently, as he could no longer rely on his Lunarian defenses like he could earlier on in the fight. Instead, King was trying to evade and block Zoro's attacks with his sword, which implies that Zoro was now able to damage King's flame on state. King with his flame on is even more durable than Kaido, so King of Hell Zoro being able to damage and be a threat to defense mode King goes to show how much his power has grown. Post Wano, Zoro hasn't done much to show off his strength, so as of this recording his exact ceiling isn't clear. Since the Straw Hats typically grow stronger passing from island to island, Zoro and Egghead should be overall stronger than he was during the raid in one way or another. Against King, the King of Hell style was rapidly draining his Haki due to how Enma works, so post raid it may not drain as fast, showing how Zoro is closer to wielding Enma the way Odin used to wield it. Now that everything about these 3 has been covered, who would actually win if Zoro fought Kid and Law? Unlike with the Luffy matchup I covered, Zoro hasn't done enough on panel to make an unshakable case for beating both Kid and Law at the same time. That can all change depending on Zoro's feat on Egghead, especially if he runs into Kizaru as some have theorized. For now though, I'll be treating this as 2 individual matchups, as there's definitely an unshakable case for Zoro beating Kid and Law that way. During the Supernova vs Yonko battle, Kid and Law were practically in awe of what Luffy and Zoro were capable of. Mind you, this is a Kid and Law that already had awakenings in their back pocket, but were shocked at the power that Luffy and Zoro were displaying before they even got their power-ups. In Zoro's case specifically, after enduring the Yonko combo attack, Law couldn't believe that Zoro could still continue fighting as he helped push Big Mom off the island. Then when Zoro blitzed and scarred Kaido, Law was in awe of what he just did given his condition. It was also portrayed through Big Mom that Rooftop Zoro could do an attack comparable to Law and Kid's awakening. Big Mom acknowledged Law and Kid only after using their awakening and was cautious of their attacks from then on. However, Zoro made Big Mom give Kaido the call out to dodge his Dragon Blaze. Kaido is even more durable than Big Mom, so for this to be said about Zoro's attack speaks volumes. That's not to say the Dragon Blaze is stronger than Kid's Damned Punk or Law's Puncture Will, but it's definitely at least as strong or stronger than the Punk Crash and the smaller Shock Will. I'm comfortable with saying this because this combo attack didn't break base Big Mom's bones or anything like that, and as I've explained before, Kid and Law's attacks individually have less damage output than their attacks as a combo. Attacks like Dragon Blaze are amplified greatly when using Conqueror's Coating, which shows how Zoro is on a whole nother level compared to Kid and Law. It's as I explained earlier, advanced Conqueror's Haki requires a certain threshold of strength, so considering Kid only has base Conqueror's Haki and Law is comparable to him, it's no surprise that Zoro eclipses them as he's amongst a handful of the strongest in the world. Zoro's durability and endurance is also portrayed to be on a whole other level to Kid and Law as well. Kid, after getting hit by Shanks' divine departure, was said to be dying. However, Zoro seemed to be in better condition after he withstood not only the Hakai, but Kaido's Thunder Bagua after many of his bones were already broken. In fact, the only time something like this was said about Zoro was towards the end of the raid after the Mink medicine, which doubles damage, took effect. All of this is to say is that Zoro's attacks would be a lot more effective against Kid and Law than the other way around, especially considering Zoro's Conqueror's Haki attacks are implied to be a threat to defense mode Lunarians. So as you can probably tell at this point, as of this recording, Zoro vs Kid and Law just isn't a fair fight. However, things could change if Kid blooms his Conqueror's Haki and Law gets whatever Oda has in store for him. That's not to say they'll surpass Zoro, but they can definitely make it a bit more competitive. Anyways, if you enjoyed, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. I've been the one and only Zage, and until next time.